We're back live talking about this early first week of college hoops. And we talked a little bit about Kansas versus North Carolina and how we didn't learn a lot. I mean, credit to North Carolina, though, for going into Fog Allen and playing a close game. But I, I
You
get,
can't like knock them and be like they actually suck, but they did not show me anything that really changed my mind.
yeah, I would agree with that. They gave up 12 offensive rebounds. They lost the rebounding battle. Um, it was actually pretty close in terms of possessions caused by rebounds. But like, yeah, I think it it was an opportunity for me to be higher on Kansas, and I'm not higher on Kansas from it.
No, if you go and kind of look at that, Kansas, by the way, is now down to eighth in Ken Palm, which is interesting. You had really two guys that shot decent from three. Rylan Griffin went 2 of 4. Zeke Mayo went 3 of 9. AJ Store went 1 of 3. Uh, they're going to be in these spots where you have to play KJ Adams 35 minutes a game just for the defensive like piece of protecting Hunter. And then you're not going to not play Dwan Harris. So you're always going to have two non-shooters on the floor. And if Hunter Dickinson isn't making threes, you have three non-shooters on the floor. So Zeke Mayo and Rylan Griffin or whoever, if it's AJ Store, they have to be really, really good shooting the ball, or else Kansas is just not going to be able to stretch the floor at all. And it makes it a lot easier to double Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my biggest question, I think Zeke Mayo played really well, and he kind of proved to me that he's probably the more important piece. But so far through 2 games, AJ Store has played 53% of their minutes, has an offensive rating of 103, hasn't gone a single offensive rebound, isn't really rebounding the ball in the defensive end that well. He's passing it okay, but has a fairly high turnover rate. Like, I've not thought of him as a winning player, and I don't really see that changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Him coming
It,
off the bench is pretty telling of like.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we've seen enough from like what Bill Self looks like when he sees AJ Store play minutes, and that man looks frustrated beyond belief. That he
Who
was,
thought they were going to start David Coit?
yeah, that not me. Definitely was not part of that camp. Uh, but I guess with Kansas, I I voted Kansas and Alabama back to back weeks for the Heat Check college basketball poll. I had Alabama 1, Kansas 2, and they're still there, but we could talk about Alabama. They play today against McNeese in about an hour, and I think we haven't seen a lot from Alabama that says that they're definitively the best team in the country. And we've seen enough that we can probably tell that if Alabama decides to be the play style that Nate Oates has gone with in the past, they could pretty easily shoot themselves out of being a national championship team.
I mean, it is. There's more talent on this team, and I do think this is probably his best team. I don't
Is
know.
it?
I think that Brandon Miller team is better just because. I
I
don't
would
know.
take Noah Clowney. I would take Noah Clowney over a lot of those bigs on this current team.
And Bediako too.
Yeah, yeah. Bediako and Clowney, I would take over
Bediako
Nelson and.
I think Bediako is a better player than Cliff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would take Bediako and Clowney over Cliff and Grant. Honestly, Grant can do more offensively, but
Yeah. It's more like who's better, Mark Sears or Brandon Miller. You know, all-
I'm
it's
gonna take Brandon Miller. I'm gonna take Brandon Miller.
I mean, Brandon Miller's pretty fucking good, but it's not like Mark Sears might end up being like National Player of the Year. So
Oh, that was my preseason National Player of the
yeah,
Year when I
yeah.
voted. So yeah, I completely agree with you there. I you know they struggled to break away from Arkansas State on Friday. They won 88-79. Arkansas State's a decent low major team. They're fine, but Alabama shot 6 for 31 from deep. And that's the entire reason that this was a 9-point game.
If this was in the second round of the tournament and they're playing a 9 seed, they probably lose that game.
They're home. They're home right now.
Yeah, correct. I mean, that is just 1 out of every 5 to 6 Alabama games. They're going to shoot 20%, and they're going to put up 30 to 40 attempts. And they're going to be in a game where they're going to just have to fight and like play defense. I mean, that's the big thing between this team and the Alabama team from 2 years ago now with Brandon Miller is they defended. And like, if you have a team that can be a top 15 defense and you have high variance shooting, at least your defense can carry you during those games where your shooting isn't really going. But it is not clear to me that this Alabama team is going to be able to play defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Aiden Holloway only played 10 minutes. He was rough defensively, to say the least. He committed 4 fouls in 10 minutes.
Whew. And this was the other thing is you don't have anybody on that roster that is really good at creating for others outside of Mark Sears and Aiden Holloway, I would argue. But can you play Mark Sears and Aiden Holloway together on the defensive end and make it work?
Yeah, and their guards are so small, Austin. Mark Sears is 6'1". LeBaron Philin is 6'4". That's your tallest guard. Latrell Wrightsell, 6'3". Aiden Holloway, 6'1". All of those guys are under 200 pounds.
Not 6'1".
Yeah.
That's their listed height. In reality, Mark Sears looks like he is maybe 5'10" on a good day.
Right. So I think it's just a matter of is Nate going to just continue to be a math teacher and just say 3 is greater than 2 and then just write it out? Because Grant Nelson and Cliff are good enough that you don't need to play that style. Like, here's the thing, is Bediako is better than Cliff in our opinion, and Noah Clowney can do more on both ends of the court than Grant, but offensively, I would take Cliff and Grant over Bediako and Noah.
Yeah. I think
so. Like, why would you be still so reliant on just casting threes?
I think you're going to need to see a shift from Alabama towards more of, slow down and pace just a little bit, especially in these bigger games when your threes aren't falling, and just run the pick and roll to death. That's probably your best bet, and just have Mark Sears and Cliff in the pick and roll over and over and over again, and let Mark Sears make those decisions for you. That's your best bet, I think.
And it was a close game, not just because they shot poorly from 3-point. It was a close game because their interior defense wasn't great either. Arkansas State shot 56% from inside the 3-point line, and they almost averaged a point per possession per throughout that game. So I don't know. Alarm bells aren't ringing, but it's definitely a situation of, okay, this team needs to be a 38% point 3 shooting team if that's not happening, it's going to end early for Alabama, a season that everybody's picking them to be a Final Four team.
Currently, they're shooting 28.6% from 3, and they're 250th in the country in 3-point shooting. So, they're not the only metric where they're top 50 in the country offensively is just free throw attempts. That's literally it. So we'll see. They had, yeah, I mean, it was Mark Sears had 16 attempts in that game. And that's why 16 attempts and only had 19 points.
Mark Sears and Latrell Wrightsell right now are combined 5 for 22 from 3.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that are supposed to be basically the leading perimeter shooters on this team, the leading scoring guards on this team. So
Yeah. Which you can take as a, hey, once they get going, things will be fine, or you could be like, that's a bit of an issue.
So they play McNeese tonight. McNeese kind of, I feel like folks were over their skis trying to say that they were going to repeat what they did last year. It's still a relatively different team than what they had the previous season. Christian Schumont's back, but rest of the way they added Sincere Parker, basically a pretty different lineup from what they played previously. They added Brandon Murray from 3 different schools in 3 years. Do you buy the Will Wade magic yet again, or are we?
Do I buy that the guy with a 92.6 offensive rating at Georgetown turning it into being a really efficient player for Will Wade? No, I do not.
Everybody's saying that Will Wade is not even going to leave after this season. And if he doesn't leave after this season, is that just he's going to be a McNeese guy forever? Because I feel like you're only going to get this level of buzz for so many years before everybody kind of just turns off to it.
Yeah, and it's like, I get it. Last year was impressive in your first year, but it's not like that conference was good.
Oh, it was easily one of the worst conferences in the country.
Yeah, it's like that team, it was insane that people were picking them to upset Gonzaga. Obviously, you and I are biased, but at the same time, it's like there was
it was insane. No, it's okay. It was insane. It was the dumbest stuff going out.
Really stupid. It's like, yeah, a pressing team is going to beat Gonzaga. No, the fuck they're not. That's not happen.
If you watched any McNeese State games last season and you were like, oh, this is a high turnover causing defense. No, they played a bunch of teams that don't know how to pass and dribble.
Yeah. They played a lot of really bad basketball teams. Ryan Nembhard is not turning the ball over against them. So anyway, that was so stupid. And okay, cool. They're going to get a 14 seed this year and get blown out again. If Alabama struggles against McNeese, I'm going to have real concerns. There's no way that I think they beat them by 25.
They have to beat this. They have to beat this team by no less than 15 for me to still have them as a top 3 team in the country. Honestly,
yeah.
It's to a point where it's like,
here's what the spread is in this game.
I'm not sure what the spread is. Ken Palm has them winning by 20. 17 and a half. I think that's reasonable to me. I don't.
Alabama, it should be over that. Alabama should win by 20 to 25 points in this game. If they're hitting their threes, it should be over 25.
Yeah. And so Alabama, they play McNeese State. Then they play Purdue. And Purdue is a team that's interesting. We'll see if Connor's able to join us. But just real quick, if he isn't, does Purdue have a prayer at winning the Big Ten if they don't have an actual true center? Or do you think their odds increase by the fact that they're not forced to play a 7-footer?
Well, we'll see. Because is Matt Painter going to make the right decision, which is playing TKR at the 5 for 70% of the minutes, and then having whatever backup Berg, maybe he plays 30% of the minutes at the backup 5. If he does that, then Purdue can win the Big Ten. If he doesn't, and he's playing a 7-footer at the 5 for all 40 minutes, and he's only playing TKR at the 4, they're in trouble. There's just no way that they are going to win the Big Ten with those kind of bigs.
Who do you think at this point is the odds-on favorite to win the Big Ten for you?
I think probably Illinois.
I'm there too. I think it has to be. Everything I've seen from Indiana tells me run away, run as fast as you can away from what is happening. And Illinois just has the disservice of they haven't played anyone, and then they're going to, end up dropping a game. Who do they play next? That's
Illinois. I think it's a while until they play anybody meaningful. They play Oakland. Oh, and then they play Alabama in where is that?
They're.
I don't know where that game is supposed to be played.
It's going to be at the Legacy Arena in Birmingham.
So that'll be a really interesting game. I'm not sure any defense will be played. That could be like 120 to 110 or something like that. But then they really don't have another test until Arkansas, which is the 28th.
I just think that it's going to be a season where like offense wins that league.
Yeah,
because there's not enough great defense in that conference. There's not formidable size in that conference this season, and it just seems like a thing of look. Did you learn anything positive from that UCLA game this last week that they dropped from New Mexico? Like,
no. If we let's go run through the Big Ten, because I feel like I know it's sacrilegious to do this while Connor's not here, but
yeah, but it's also better because nobody's allowing this conference to get away with this crap.
That's true. Okay, Purdue, outside of Braden Smith, not very impressive. Ohio State, congrats on beating a Texas team where the best player is a freshman. I'm not going to hang a banner for them. Oregon has played literally nobody. Congrats on a win over UC Riverside in Montana. Don't care. Michigan, they lost to Wake Forest, and that is not a good Wake Forest team. We can talk about playing Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf together. Anybody that Danny Wolf was a top 100 player coming into this season, that was mine. That is just like, so here's the thing.
Litmus test.
There are so many teams to talk about in college basketball. And there's a lot of people that watch a lot of college basketball. You and I are two of those people. I don't get to watch every game. I cannot have opinions on a lot of teams. I do watch a decent amount of Ivy League basketball. Danny Wolf was not good. He's not a good player. He got a lot of possessions, and he does stuff that looks cool. And if you watch Yale once every 2 months and you just happen to get a good Danny Wolf game, you're like, holy shit, there's a 7-footer taking step back threes and initiates on the perimeter. This guy's awesome. He's going to be so good at the high major level. No, he's not. He's not a good basketball player. He is not going to win games. He's not a winning player.
Did that coaching staff, that coaching staff is full of smart guys. Did they forget that Trey Donaldson is on their team at the end of that game? Why is Danny Wolf initiating the offense at the top of the key when you have Trey Donaldson?
Don't know. Trey Donaldson was the best guard on Auburn last year.
Easily, right? Not even close.
Wasn't close, and he's the best guard on their team.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like he's the best player. You're going to get nothing. Danny Wolf is not going to make, I get it. He went to an Ivy League school. You know what he's not going to do? Make smart decisions. He's not a smart basketball player. He just isn't. Vlad Golden is a 0 on offense right now. And Roddy Gale is a guy that, is he really going to be the go-to scorer for you? I don't think so.
He wasn't that at Ohio State. He's supposed to be really great secondary scoring.
So that's a roster where it's just like, who is the guy for Michigan? Uh,
Is it Sam Walters?
a guy that could not get on the floor for Alabama last year. Uh,
Honestly, it didn't look like he'd get on the floor a lot for Michigan. So
yeah, I mean, that roster is full of like solid players, but there's nobody that is the go-to guy on that roster to me. And we can talk about Wake Forest eventually, but man, don't see it there. That's more of an indictment of Michigan than it's a crowning of Wake Forest.
it's I just don't understand why Trey is taking the fifth most shots on that team, sixth most shots on that team. It doesn't make sense to me. I like. Is
What
it
kind of
is it
offense?
his size? Is it the fact that he can't get it off himself? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they're just asking him to be more of a facilitator, but like, what kind of offense makes sense with that group of guys? Because it's not like they're great 3-point shooting team.
Mm-mm.
Are any of them great? It's not like you're like, hey, we have three guys that are great in the dribble drive offense. You're not posting up any of those guys.
What's the point of having two 7-footers on the court if neither of them can post up?
And yeah, neither of them can post up and neither of them can defend. Well, Vlad Golden can defend the rim. I want to say that.
Vlad's a fine defender.
But when
Yeah.
you're putting Danny Wolf on the perimeter defending, good luck.
It's that this conference is maddening, and I don't
Yeah.
know if you saw this, Austin. Rutgers plays tonight. It is another game that Ace Bailey is sitting out.
It's
Is
going to be like Michael Porter Jr.
I was just about to ask that. How many games does Ace Bailey even play this season? If we're already doing this, because this is something that was supposedly happened in a practice.
It sucks.
Yeah, bummer.
Like, play basketball. I, if I'm an NBA team and I see a guy like that, basically just like sitting out games and wanting to limit the amount of tape on me, that's a huge red flag to me. I mean,
Yeah.
if they're like an actual injury,
I will look to see if there's like an official announcement to it. Uh, nope, it still has not been specified by the school, and it is a day-to-day injury. Is
sick.
the only information that Rutgers made available. Not great, not awesome, not awesome, and that's a team that if he's healthy, if he's able to play, they're a legitimate top 25 team. They're a team that with Dylan Harper and him, they're capable of beating anyone in the country, honestly. Like high variance, of course, but if you have that level of star on the court, that shot making on the court, that's a completely different team. And um, I've liked what I've seen from some of the like secondary pieces on the team, but without Ace, that team is just Dylan Harper chucking, right?
Pretty much. And University of San Diego's PJ Hayes.
Legend.
Yeah, truly. Um, outside of, we should probably talk Indiana, and then we definitely need to shit on Washington. Are there any other? I really haven't watched any. Oh, and then UCLA. We need to spend some time on UCLA because
Okay, so let's just go into Washington right now. I didn't see what happened. I just have refused to even acknowledge Washington.
I'm not watching their games, but they lost by 10 to Nevada. Um,
Tough,
great,
tough.
great Osabor was 0 of 7 from the field. He did make 3 free throws though.
There you
Uh,
go.
5 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 turnovers. So he is maybe not as good as they were hoping for. They suck, and they will continue to suck. Zoom Diallo got 5 minutes in this game. He was 0 of 2 for the floor, and he did have 1 turnover and 4 fouls. So 5 minutes, 4 fouls for the 5-star point guard that did not want to commit to the Gonzaga Bulldogs. So that went well. Yeah. Washington is not good. They're going to probably be the worst team in that league. I don't know who else is really as bad as them. Can you think of? I mean, they're ranked last in Ken Palm by a pretty significant margin. Like
it would take another team for their wheels to fall off.
Maybe Minnesota.
Maybe. I mean,
the only way that Minnesota is worse is like if Osabor just ends up being unbelievable, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So,
that is a player that is inked a $2 million deal to play for the Washington Huskies.
Correct.
Right now, the Huskies have paid $500,000 for every basket he's made.
Yeah, they're just not very good.
And it's I don't know how they get better because it's like they didn't get high ceiling guys. They bought mid-major guys that hit their ceiling in the mid-major. I loved Tyler Harris last season, but does Tyler Harris have another gear to his game that we haven't seen?
No, Tyler Harris is like a pretty solid player if he's like your 5th best player on offense.
Yeah.
And he's like long and rangy. He can shoot a little bit. He's
huge mismatch in mid-major games. Huge.
Yeah, he's always like a secondary option, but a really good secondary option.
Mm-hmm.
He cannot be your second. He's not creating or generating offense for himself or others. That's not happening. So I don't, it's not like he helped Portland win games last year. Let's put it that way.
No. And like, I feel bad that they're just wasting Frank Kapang. Like,
I know. It's like he had 2 healthy games and they're wasted.
Yeah. He's barely getting in the rotation, honestly, because of great like dictating and needing a certain amount of minutes played for how much money you gave him. But
okay, we should stop talking about Washington because just we're gonna be able to shit on them so much more throughout the year. USC hasn't done shit.
Is USC the team that you could see falling to the cellar with Washington if the wheels come off?
Actually, you know what? I feel like we have like not exactly addressed this, but I think this is going to be a narrative throughout this year, which is teams that built themselves through NIL and are like bag teams. So your bag teams are Washington. Like Washington is one of those. They were like a noisy bag team. USC is another one of those. That is a bag team. Kansas, I would argue, is a bag team. I'm trying to think of like who are the other.
Arizona State's a bag.
Arizona State is a bag team. Let's see who else in that group. In that top group, there's not a ton of them that are actually like bag teams. Oregon kind of always is, but Baylor kind of a bag team, but they have enough of like a culture there where it's like you're not just going. Oh, Indiana is the big one. I think we're gonna see we're gonna get like halfway through this season, and we're gonna look down and be like, oh, all of the teams that are just purely built off of NIL are getting their ass kicked. They have no chemistry. Nobody's bought in. And these guys are on 1-year contracts, and they're going to bolt. And they got paid. They don't care about winning in these situations. If things aren't like AJ Store, for example, is he going to be happy with getting 15 to 20 minutes a game and less than 10 shots a game? I don't think so.
Kansas State add that.
Bag team.
Yeah.
It's I don't think that those teams are going to be successful. And that's not a referendum on NIL, but it is to say that having both culture and the money to get those top players there, but they also have to buy into the culture of the team and actually winning instead of just coming to that school because they want money and opportunity.
Is Michigan considered a bag school? I think it's close. I think it's close, but I don't think it necessarily fits the criteria.
They didn't get any good players, and like outside of Trey Donaldson and Roddy Gale.
I can't imagine they got Vlad. I don't think they got Vlad and Danny for free though.
No, but like, how many teams really wanted Danny Wolf? He committed pretty early in the I think he committed like pretty much immediately.
Look, it was probably down to Michigan and Vanderbilt for the Ivy Bowl.
Yeah,
so
true. That's one thing you got to notice. All Ivy League transfers, they don't go to bad schools. They always get a good master's degree. So it's true. It's true.
Because most of these players, Austin, after they play basketball in college, don't play basketball professionally.
Turns out they don't. They turn pro in something other than sports.
Yeah. There it is. Sorry, I couldn't remember the Enterprise ad. Yeah, I guess. So, like, looking at those teams, is there a team that has jumped out to you that you really weren't like considering in the national landscape until they played a couple games?
Can I say no?
You can say no, and
I know that's not fun. But
there's somebody that I'm like, okay, they're probably a top 25 team, and I kind of discredited them. They were mentioned in a podcast episode with us, and Tristan is going to be listening to this and say, I was right. But Cincinnati's kind of fun, dude.
I haven't watched them play, so I can't.
They're kind of fun. I like. Granted, they played Morehead State and Arkansas Pine Bluff, so not a lot to glean from that. Their first, they don't have a real challenge until they get to Dayton in December. But I think there's a legitimate chance that they go undefeated until they play Arizona at the beginning of next year.
Okay.
And like, look, I was raised on the incredible abilities of Edgerrin James as a running back. So the fact that his kid is hooping to the level like he is, and that his name is Jizzle, is just I just don't understand how that's not one of the biggest names in college basketball, considering how these blog boards operate.
Only reason why people talk about him is because of his name.
I mean, he's solid. He's got
but like, he's a guard for Cincinnati. It's not exactly like would be a household name outside of the fact that his name is Jizzle.
I think that if his shooting stays consistent, he's 3 for 6 from 3 in 2 games. So like, you're not going to learn a whole lot from that, taking less than 4 attempts a game. But if he shoots for 35% or better, that's a team that I think is a tournament team, is a team that's going to be finishing somewhere between a 6 and an 8 seed. So that's better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah. Okay. There's 2 teams, and they mirror each other. They're deeply connected that I have not formed real opinions on yet. I'm not like completely out, which is BYU and Kentucky.
I was about to bring up Kentucky
because I'm not a big Mark Pope believer.
Mm-hmm.
Never have been. Don't think I ever will be. Mm-hmm. But they have pretty solid talent. And, do I think it's not like Mark Pope hasn't had really good regular season teams? He has. Has he ever done anything in the tournament at all, or done anything to deserve the best job in college basketball? Absolutely not. he has not deserved that or earned that in any way. But he has a job. The other one, obviously, BYU. Like Kevin Young, I think almost every BYU fan would tell you they are pretty happy that Mark Pope is gone and they have Kevin Young, and all of a sudden Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith, the owner of the Utah Jazz, have turned that into their NIL pet project.
Yeah. BYU is Grand Canyon of Mormonism.
Truly. I love that you have an NBA owner and an NBA GM that care more about making their basketball team good than their own NBA team. That tells you a lot about how and more meaningful college basketball is than NBA basketball.
That's brutal. That is a brutal fact.
It's true.
It's inarguable. It's inarguable that the Utah Jazz play second fiddle to the BYU Cougars.
Ask NBA players. They care more about if they ever retired, they care more about what their college team's doing than the NBA team that they were a big time NBA player for.
Oof. I think it's interesting to level 2 because I feel like it's almost like a Russian nesting doll of just what a coach does, where Arkansas steals Cal, and Arkansas experiences the Calipari show when they play Baylor, and you're like, that they just didn't bother thinking about any implications of this game, and
not realize they were going to play zone.
Incredible stuff. So Baylor exposes Cal to Arkansas. Kentucky takes Mark Pope from BYU, and all the Kentucky fans are like, "Holy shit, we have a basketball coach right now. We have a guy that's actively building a roster and coaching and using strengths of his players and exploiting those strengths." And then BYU took a mastermind NBA development X's and O's guy, and say what you want about the college basketball in the NBA is not like college football in the NFL, where all of the brilliant schematics guys are in college. It's the other way around with basketball. All of the guys that you're like, how that was the craziest out of bounds ATL play I've ever seen. That's the NBA. College coaches can be brilliant masterminds too, but the X's and O's, what the did I just see? That's the NBA. And they took in Kevin Young, and look what happened.
And they brought in Kevin Young's brother, who is one of the top grassroots guys in recruiting. And that's why you're seeing such a bump. Plus, Kevin Young obviously has a ton of international relationships, and that's why they have Igor Detman on their team. And they also have all of the money in the Mormon church and they're literally treating basketball like it's evangelizing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean straight up I see on the timeline regularly BYU fans saying this is going to help our mission work.
Yeah, are you prepared for an undefeated BYU football team and a really good BYU basketball team? Because personally, I am not ready.
I'm not ready for the new basketball rivalry being in 5 or 6 straight national title games, Grand Canyon versus BYU. That is going to break me.
Yeah, Jerry Colangelo versus Ryan Smith is my nightmare. All we have left is just religious fascism and capitalism coming together and just ruining college basketball.
They couldn't touch football. They couldn't get to football.
Yeah, shockingly, football is pure.
I feel I don't know, that BYU team's interesting too, because it's not like we've really seen Jackson Robinson pop yet. Is there? Or I'm sorry, the Kentucky team. Sorry. I'm talking about the Kentucky team. I think there's a real chance that they beat Duke on Tuesday. Are you prepared for that?
I am not prepared for that at all. I don't know what I want more, to be honest. Because I really don't like either fan base at all. I don't want either of them to be happy. So that's a tough one. Morally, I can't root for Duke, so that's kind of where I'm
It it's just like really is it counterculture or like rooting for David versus Goliath if you just say Kentucky beating Duke is an upset? Is that really what we're saying? We're saying
Yeah,
that like plucky Kentucky can take down
I
Duke?
yeah, I'm just not I'm
I-
not ready for that.
the the level of play that I've also seen from Krause so far is deeply troubling to me and upsetting. Like he's actually like making good decisions and he's
Yeah,
playing within himself. And we haven't gotten a Kerr heat check really yet.
that won't continue for long.
I, he's
He has a 53.6% assist rate.
Austin. He's averaging 8.5 assists a game right now. He's playing 18 minutes a game and getting 8.5 assists.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
He's only attempting 3.5 shots in those 18 minutes.
That's
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. He is attempting half as many shots as he did this season prior. Granted, almost twice as many minutes played, but I who's
I
what if we come away from this Kentucky Duke game and say is Agor actually the best player in college basketball for the NBA draft?
well,
Oh
he's
wait, no, it's not people. What am I doing? I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
no. I
I've
was
gotten
like,
so combined. I've
I think
combined these schools in such an absurd level. That is embarrassing. I am so sorry.
it's
I
okay.
I just
Uh,
wonder. I just wonder this season if
well,
Agar
you
is the better
have,
passer between the two.
you could have Cooper just be so bad that all of a sudden people are like, "Is Egor better?"
How did I do that? That's crazy
You're
that I did
not.
that.
Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself. Here's the issue: we're not going to see. I mean, BYU's non-conference schedule is horrible. Horrible. They play so it's 340 Central Arkansas, 142 UC Riverside, 271 Queens, 287 Idaho, 364 Mississippi Valley State. Your first decent game is against Ole Miss, and then you play Providence, and then it's Fresno State, Wyoming, Florida A&M. Then you play your first conference game, which is Arizona State. So there's a reality where we don't see Agor Demon play against an actual good basketball team until January 4th when they play at Houston, which sucks.
It's brutal.
So we might be 2 months away from seeing Agor Demon play against a real team and have any kind of judgment call of is he really that good or not. I mean, I hate when teams, especially first year coaches, when they line their schedules up like that. Looking at you, Danny Sprinkle, I hate that. I hate it so much.
Yeah, it's definitely playing it safe, and it's just robbery to
Yeah,
deprive us from Agor against some upper level talent. It's like is he actually Pete Maravich with this passing, or is he just playing guys that belong in Pete Maravich's era? Like,
it's a great question. Tuck, did you ever watch that Pete Maravich movie back in the day?
yeah, I did.
You
Yeah,
watched that so many times as a kid,
oh, like my dad thought that would make me Pete Maravich if I just watched it
and
enough
it
times.
didn't.
Yeah, it kind of did. You're speaking to a two-time champion of the YMCA Youth Basketball League of Spokane, Washington. So
There you go. A lot of
yeah,
people say you're the Pete Maravich of Spokane.
yeah, a lot of people do. Hey, you're speaking to someone that is the Pete Maravich of Spokane that also won the inaugural Adam Morrison horse competition at the rec center that John Stockton has across the street. So like, I got bona fides.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard that you used to bully a Stockton back in the day on the block. So
I mean, we were teammates, so not really. But yeah, in a way. Jesus.
I apologize. I am getting over.
So, how many teams in the country do you think have national title odds?
Okay, realistic chances at winning a national championship. Um, one, two, three,
You're at 3.
four.
There's one that I think has national title odds that I don't think you're going to agree with, and you're going to be mad that I believe that.
So mine are Duke, Gonzaga, Alabama, and Kansas.
Okay, I'm at 6 currently.
Okay, let's who are
In
yours?
in order of who I think is most likely to do it.
Okay,
Alabama, Kansas, Duke, Gonzaga,
okay.
Houston, Auburn.
Okay. We have not talked about Auburn or Houston. The other team we have not talked about, which we thought could be better, and we'll see. Depends on eligibility questions. Creighton.
Oh yeah, I have that. I have Creighton on ice until we hear about Fedor's eligibility.
Until Fedor is back and we see them against some real teams. Unfortunately, they're not going to play any real teams in the Big East Conference, Tuck. Big East fucking sucks.
Did you know that 4 of the 6 worst Ken Palm teams in power conferences play basketball in the Big East? Just a garbage league. Garbage.
Ass. They are
terrible.
Horrible. That is an embarrassment. I mean, now that the Pac-12 is on hiatus for 2 years, the Big East really took over and said, we will take up this mantle of being a horrible basketball conference.
Truly.
I mean, embarrassment. There is not a single good win for any Big East team. Right now, the best win that you could say is Marquette beating George Mason. And that was a closer game than the score actually makes it look out to be. That is the only top 100 win that the Big East has right now. And they have multiple losses against Columbia, Austin P, and why am I blanking on the third one? Who else had a horrible loss? Georgetown lost to – oh, no, Georgetown didn't lose. Who was the Seton Hall lost to Fordham. That was the other one.
Yeah, they lost to Fordham, who I picked to, I think, finish 12th in that A10 conference when I did the preview for Heat Check. Definitely outside of the top 10. That's not a good team.
And is the A10 going to be a better league top to bottom than the Big East this year?
No. I mean, I want to say yes, but that bottom of the A10 is disgusting too. And that the highs aren't. I would say the middle of the A10 is disturbingly close to the middle of the Big East. I think that's not a stretch. But yeah, man. I mean, it's just to a point with the Big East that UConn's. Here's a question for you. Is UConn closer to 25th in the country than 1 in the country?
Yeah, not a question.
And they are 3rd still in the AP poll.
Yep.
They have beaten the 2 teams they've played. They scored 92 points against both Sacred Heart and New Hampshire and gave up 56 and 53. 2 games they just blew them out in the second half.
Correct.
But those teams are terrible. Those 2 teams are 2 of the 30 worst teams in the country. And the guards don't look very good.
No. Is this the time where we talk about Aiden Mahaney?
I think we need to, because I feel like we're going to get a point where it's no longer applicable to talk about Aiden Mahaney.
Yeah, is Aiden Mahaney gonna get any minutes for this team moving forward? I mean, to me, it's start Hassan Diarra and play Solomon Ball, because Aiden Mahaney is not that guy.
It's wild. It is shocking that Aiden Mahaney has attempted 12 shots over 2 games against 2 terrible basketball teams.
Bad.
Like I looked at it. He took 4 attempts last season once against Pacific, and that was because they blew them out to the point that he didn't need to play in the basketball game. And I think there are real questions about, is it actually just all of the lower class players are the best players to play with Alex Karaban and Terrace Reed in general? Like, Jaden Ross looked good. Jaden Ross is going to be really good by the end of the season.
Sure.
I liked what I saw from Hassan. Obviously liked what I saw from Solo. And yeah, those are the 2 guards that I would go with the rest of the way and just say, all right, Liam, you're playing 30 minutes a game.
Well, if Aiden Mahaney is not hitting from 3, what is his purpose? If he's not an aggressive shooter that plays similar to like the way that Jordan Hawkins played or Cam Spencer, which, to be clear, he's not either of those players. He's not in the same universe of shooter of Jordan Hawkins, and he's not the same size. He's not the creator that Cam Spencer was, or any of those things at all, or the competitor or defender and isn't as big. He's not, like, when we talked about him fitting in either of those roles, he's not that player at all. He's not capable of being that player.
Yes.
It was shocking to me that Danny Hurley wanted him.
That's the thing for me is this is kind of what you and I thought was going to happen to some extent. Maybe not like the complete beginning of the season lack of confidence, but that the confidence thing was going to be a thing by the end of the year, because
he's not built for that.
He's a front runner. He was a front runner the entire time he was at St. Mary's. He would talk mad shit when they were ahead, and he would duck his head when they weren't going well.
100%.
And it's like just completely counter to what Danny Hurley says that his chemistry, his foundation for talent development and scouting is based on, is a player like Aiden Mahaney.
Mm-hmm. His offensive rating against Tier A and Tier B teams in his freshman and sophomore year, his sophomore year was 103, and his freshman year was 96. He has always struggled against top tier competition. He has never done well, and he gets shut down easily. He is a guy that when he gets hot against bad teams, he looks good, but he is not a very good player.
Oh, I'm like, it's.
He will be in the transfer portal next year. You can already see he feels like a shell of himself.
I don't see anything that's like an improvement in his game. When I watch him, like anything, like statistically, he has a higher assist rate than he did last season, but that's simply because he plays in Danny Hurley's system. That has nothing to do with him as a player.
Yep.
It's dark, dude. It is dark.
Not dark in my opinion, but
I mean, all right. We'll see what happens. I think there's a real shot that Gonzaga just maybe has like kind of lucked out in their schedule, by the way. Like, this is the first time that we're talking about Gonzaga in this recording. But if you kind of look at their non-conference and when they play these teams, Arizona State probably is going to be a top 50 team in the country if the wheels don't come off or Bobby Hurley messes up coaching up those guys. They just have enough talent on that roster and like buoyed by enough like upperclassmen guards that I just think it's going to take a lot for them to be bad. Baylor, they played Baylor to open up the season before the continuity's there. They play San Diego State without San Diego State's best player. Mm-hmm. They're going to play Kentucky in a semi-home game. We'll see how that goes. I think that Kentucky game actually might be harder than we thought it was going to be.
I might
And
take that one. Thinking about it.
it's in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that might be worth trying to go to. They they play Connecticut before Connecticut drops a bunch of games that it looks like they're going to drop. They play UCLA late enough into the non-conference that hopefully they figure themselves out enough to be a quality opponent.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I'll say too is you've got West Virginia in your MTE that I think West Virginia is going to be a little bit better than what people think, but I don't think that they're a team that can like actually beat Gonzaga.
Yeah, I would say dream scenario is West Virginia, Indiana, Arizona, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about it in the recorded. We recorded a podcast episode last night. It's going to drop tomorrow morning, and in that, Connor kind of spoke to the idea of how the diversity of the bigs and those bigs having identical skill sets, but maybe have preferable different matchups. If Gonzaga can have Graham Ike and Braden Huff and Ben Gregg and Michael Ajayi playing good quality basketball off of each other, they match up well against the two better teams in that run of games, and they it's just like an ability for them to match up with most of their opponents throughout this non-con, where it's like Baylor was the most freakish athletic team that they're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
uh Indiana has size, but they don't have perimeter shooting to like really make it so you can't stay
Yeah.
with them if they're playing great
Yeah.
offensively.
And then obviously UCLA. We have not shit on UCLA nearly enough. But
I just that
that roster construction is insane.
it makes no sense.
I
Why did Dom transfer to UCLA? What was the point?
He's not even playing for them. Dominic Harris.
He's played 7 minutes and he got a DNP against New
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah. I guess 7 minutes against Ryder in a 35-point blowout. He took one shot.
Ade Mara has played a combined 15 minutes in 2 games.
And he looks horrible. This is a guy that 2 years ago was being talked about as a potential lottery pick.
Mm-hmm.
He chooses UCLA, and he is not going to get a sniff in the NBA. He is not going to make a single dollar in the NBA.
What Big West school is he going to transfer to after this
UC
season?
Irvine. Enjoy UC Irvine because
that's a great mid-major team. That's a great mid-major program.
And maybe Matt Painter will take him on as a project, but he looks awful. He looks awful. I mean, he legitimately, by choosing UCLA, and I honestly feel bad for him, but choosing UCLA probably cost him about $10 million. And that's not an over estimation. Reality-wise, he would have been a lottery pick. He would have probably gotten about $7 to $8 million guaranteed. And then after it didn't go well for those, 3 years, he probably would have picked up a 2-way contract or something like that, gotten to $10 million earned. But now he's not going to get that shot. He's not getting that shot. He looks really bad.
How bad is it that head and shoulders Tyler Bilodeau is their best player? Like, he's a fine player. He's a good player on a good team.
He was a guy that I low-key wanted. Before Gonzaga got Ajayi, I was like, Gonzaga should try and go out and get Tyler Bilodeau to replace Anton Watson because he is a good player. He's playing out of position at the 5 and isn't even playing outstanding. I don't know. I didn't think he was playing outstanding, but he is their best player, and that is.
It's not close. It's not close.
It's pretty dark. He's not even shooting well from 3, 2 for 10 from 3. His offensive rating is 106.9. It's not like he's been awesome. It's not like he's played out of his mind, but he is their best player.
Like, what is the point of having Trent Perry and Sebastian Mack split minutes? Why would you not just have go with one of them at this point?
Oh, no idea. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys play more than 10 minutes in that game, and Ademar played 5 against New Mexico.
He has 5 point guards on his team. He has 5 guards on his team that are not actual shooting guards.
Yep.
Like Dom is the closest thing to an actual shooting guard, and he doesn't play.
It doesn't play him. Yeah. Also, building your team around like a guy like Sky Clark, who literally quit on Illinois and then went and played at Louisville, the biggest losing program you could possibly play for. Like, that's one thing that when this transfer portal era is, if you're going to be a good team, you cannot get transfers from losing ass programs.
No, that's like Eli Becker heat check. He's the first I've heard to say it. Connors brought up what he said about the idea of like, you do not trust teams that bring in losing transfers. And
it's one I could hear the response of, well, Michael Ajayi didn't win at Pepperdine, but I don't think he didn't really fit in that category. It's more
okay, here's the razor or like the addendum to that for Michael Ajayi. Yeah. If you were a junior college transfer who played one season and you grew 10 inches in the course of 2 years, and by the way, when you go to this new school, you're not the primary weapon on offense outside of like you take enough shots over the course of playing 30 minutes in a basketball game, but actually you're there to be the energy guy and the rebounder. Yeah. And by the way, you're a 29% defensive rebounding rate guy right now. Like, you're right.
So there's the Michael Ajayi rule to that, but yeah, it's like, don't bring in losers. I'm sorry, but Sky Clark is just not a winner. Like, he is not added to winning culture. Turns out you want your point guard to be a winner, like they would be better off. I really believe this. They would be better off just giving the ball to Trent Perry and having him figure it out, because he has the highest upside of those guys. I would just be like, Trent, you're going to be our guy. We're going to run it through you. We're going to figure it out. And hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to be much better and you're going to be much better.
Here's what I don't understand, Austin. Dylan Andrews isn't a bad point guard. I don't know. What's the point? What's the point of bringing in 4 other point guards to challenge him for the one thing that, like, you didn't have a question mark last season? It wasn't like Dylan Andrews was making it so you couldn't win basketball games last season.
Don't know, Tuck. Nick Cronin without Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell is quite lost. And who knows if he's ever going to find himself again.
What would the record have to be for him to for him to feel hot on his seat?
Okay, let's look at what's realistic for them. They have a lot of easy games on their schedule. Wow. Okay, so his non-conference, you've got Boston, Lehigh, Idaho State, Cal State Fullerton, Southern Utah.
He does not believe in this team just looking at that schedule.
The only non-conference games that are real games are North Carolina and Gonzaga and New Mexico, and he already lost his first one. And the North Carolina game is forced because it's the Big Ten ACC Challenge, correct?
Yeah.
Or wait, what is that?
Yeah, I don't understand this schedule either. Because it's a neutral site game, so
what is that? And it's played at MSG. I'm not sure what that is. That's strange. It doesn't say. Maybe that's like the CBS Classic.
CBS Sports Classic is what it is.
That's what it is. Okay. But that's almost like a forced, like premeditated thing.
Right.
So he didn't get to choose that. I mean, that just tells me you don't believe in your team. if that's a schedule that you have at UCLA.
Yeah.
So maybe skip going to if you're a Gonzaga fan, maybe skip going to the Intuit Dome unless you want to watch Gonzaga win by like.
No, I feel like you got to go to the Intuit Dome to just check out the bathrooms.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you got to see what
Light show would be cool.
you got to see what Steve is cooking up there. Steve Ballmer is just making magic happen.
Do you think Ballmer is a Gonzaga fan?
I think Steve Ballmer is a money fan.
I'm just saying he's a Washingtonian. Does he? I mean,
do we need to get Steve Ballmer to drop a bag? Do we need it?
Sick. Honestly, that's what we need. Steve Ballmer needs to become a Zag.
All right, we gotta start this process.
Yeah.
Honestly, Steve Ballmer like celebrating is reminiscent to Mark Few doing a handstand in a lot of ways. It kind of has the same level of composure.
Hey, it's not working out for the Clippers, so why not just invest a little bit in the Zags?
Yeah, Steve, look at what Ainge is doing. Look at what Utah's doing. Get on board, brother.
Did Ballmer even graduate college? Let's check this out.
we're just gonna just really quick LinkedIn Steve Ballmer.
See where he's gonna just education.
He went to Harvard, so
no.
Harvard, Lawrence Technical University.
Okay.
Stanford.
That sucks.
Well, we lost Steve Ballmer already. That's a bummer.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. I'll talk to Steve.
Yeah, you're getting him on your line.
I'll give Steve a call.
I'll add him on LinkedIn and see what happens.
He's probably a fan of Nolan Nickman's game. I mean, he's a Seattle guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I imagine he probably goes to the crossover, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Just locked in for 12 straight hours, waiting in line to hang out at the crossover in like July in Seattle.
The reason why the crossover Chet injured his foot is because Steve was so sweaty that it just made the entire building humid.
Yeah, he's like actually just so desperate for hoops and watching like some random kid that played at like Seattle Pacific but is like actually a Seattle legend, but he's only 5'6". That's what Steve Ballmer is here for.
Real hoops. Okay, so I guess we should just close this out by talking about that Houston Auburn game.
Yeah, we got to do that.
So Houston loses to Auburn by 5 points. They were in control of that game for the first 30 minutes or so. Like, yeah, it was back and forth, but kind of Houston had the game in hand for a solid portion of it. Credit to Auburn, they fought back. Auburn's defense is real as hell. Like, Auburn plays great defense. Tahad Pettiford is different than Aiden Holloway in a couple ways. I think that this result is less smoke and mirrors than what Aiden Holloway was able to do in a couple games last season. One of those was against Baylor. Tahad Pettiford just seems more put together, that it wasn't just catch and shoot threes. What I don't understand is Bruce Pearl and that coaching staff saying he's not a point guard. I don't understand that, because he was the only guy able to initiate, create anything very like decent, and he did so really, really damn well in the second half. If this is what we get from Pettiford, this is a national title contending team, just from the fact that Auburn finally has the ball in your hand creating guard that they've been lacking pretty much since they arrived to the national scene a few years ago.
Sure. I am skeptical. I want to see him do this a number of different times.
I'm not saying buy your stock at the highest. One of the highest points is going to be, by the way. If you were not on Pettiford already, it's okay to say, all right, let's watch a couple games first.
Yeah. Now, if all of a sudden that's who he is, then we can have another conversation. To me, this game told me a lot about where Houston is,
Yeah.
which is, Auburn is getting a lot of credit for this game, and they should, but it's based on the assumption that Houston has the best defense in the country. And I don't think that is the case. Houston has earned the respect and the assumption that their defense is going to be amazing. Right? I mean, I think that's fair. But if you watched that game, LJ Cryer, not a good defensive player. Just straight up not. I mean, there were a lot of national media people that said LJ Cryer is a great defensive player and he's going to be just like Jamal Shed and he's going to be just like Marcus Sasser and, he's going to be amazing. He's not that guy. He's never been that guy. He will never be that guy. Connor's pointed this out on multiple podcasts. He has had the worst defensive rating on his teams every single year in college basketball, and that was when he was on bad defenses for Baylor. Okay, he is not a good defensive player. He's not the scorer that Shed and Sasser are either and creator for himself. Milo Zuzon, not that guy. He is not a dog on defense, straight up. He is not trying to blank on Taze Moore. Like, he is not that level of player. He's a fine offensive player. He's not great. He's fine. He's not a great defender. Their bigs are good, but their communication and connectivity on the defensive end was not there. There were so many missed assignments in that game. The amount of times that Janai Broom got easy layups at the rim was like genuinely shocking. And it was not because, wow, Auburn just ran amazing offense or they're so difficult to guard. It was basic communication stuff. And I bet you if you asked Kelvin Sampson, he would have said that. I don't know if any reporter even asked him questions after the game and see any post-game. I don't know if you saw anything.
I haven't seen any like post-game press conference stuff from Kelvin, but I will say we're not talking about the fact that LJ Cryer is not LJ Cryer still. He had surgery on his foot in the offseason. You could tell that he's just not the player that he's been in the past offensively yet. He was 4 for 10 from 2, 1 for 4 from 3. There was just so many times he just came up short in like how he finished shots. So I think that is worth noting. I think it's also worth noting.
Run offense through Jawan Roberts, dude, who is not a good scorer.
And yeah, I like, if anything, this told me that Jawan Roberts is getting recognition and love that are just like, are we sure? Are you sure about that? Like, was he? I've never been like a Jawan Roberts is a top 5 defensive big in the country guy.
Yeah,
his entire college career.
Jawan Roberts had 14 attempts in that game. That was your leading shot taker. Was Jawan Roberts.
And I think if Houston is going to remain in my group of national title contending teams, Terrence Arsenault is going to have to be something. He's got they got to give him more minutes. They've got to have him create more. He only took 2 shots in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I thought we saw enough towards the end of I thought we saw enough from like his previous time on the court that like him back, him healthy, and everything like that, it's going to be a different game for him. But like, I think we were rightfully skeptical of Milos as the point guard. I think that's kind of a glaring thing in this game. Like getting Arsenault back. Maybe he's not 100% still. I don't know, but there's no offense on this team outside of LJ Cryer, and I guess Milos is the second best scorer on this team right now. Is there somebody else that you're hoping is going to turn a corner? I mean, like Emmanuel Sharp is
a secondary guy, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like who's scoring for them?
Guy. someone that you want taking 4 to 5 threes, all catch and shoot, and then a couple, he's attacking a closeout and getting to the rim, but he's not creating for himself. He's also not a very good defender.
No.
That dude dies on screens.
Austin, did you Eric Fawcett highlighted this in his podcast show with Kevin Sweeney where they talk X's and O's. There was just so many times that Auburn would run this decoy fake screen and then commit a secondary screen because Houston likes to throw two at picks, and just Houston never figured it out. And that's just Auburn spammed it the entire last 20 minutes of that game, and it worked every single time.
As long as you have a shooter in the corner, that corner defender can't leave that guy, or they leave it late, and then Janai's already at the rim.
Janai got so many wide open looks in that second half, and don't get me wrong, Janai Broome proved that he is one of the 15 best big men in the country. And I don't say that number disrespectfully, because I think if Janai Broome is utilized in the way he was in that second half, I think it's inarguable that he's one of the 10 best bigs in the country.
There's also a lot of bigs that would have gotten his looks and done exactly what he did.
Sure. I don't disagree. But where I don't think Janai Broome is one of the 10 best bigs in the country is what we saw in the first half. Yeah. How does Auburn expect him to get quality looks initiating the offense at the top of the key? How is that the move for a player like that? I understand that he wants to expand his shooting. I understand that he wants to be a 3-point shooter so he can prove that he can play at the next level. But for him to be a National Player of the Year contending player, for him to be an All-American player, that dude needs to eat at the rim. That dude needs to be getting the ball in the low post. But he does not want to do that, or Auburn does not want him to do that. And I don't understand it. I don't get it.
The one thing that he is really good at, or is, I would say, excellent at, is he needs a screen or movement towards the basket, and while he has motion to the basket, catching it within 5 feet and then making a finish. You're not going to just straight up post him up, or he's not going to get the ball at the top of the key and create for himself. That is not where he's elite at. He is above average at those things.
He's good in traffic. He's good composing himself, gathering the ball, and fluidly going up. He's very good at that.
Auburn is running fucking dumbass flex action because that's the one thing that Janai Broome is good at, is basically getting a cross screen and then coming across towards the ball or with motion and then using his ability to just pivot and finish.
Auburn also has a group of dudes on that team that are solid contributing members of that team. And that's why I think it's inarguable that they're a top 10 team in the country at worst. And they could legitimately be one of the best teams in the country if, again, they utilize Janai Broome in the best way that he can be utilized in. And if Pettiford is consistently the player that we saw against Houston, that's a big if. I'm not going to kid you. JB Pegues, Sure, man.
Not that guy.
I was puzzled by that. The idea that you're just going to plug him into that system, considering what we've seen from small guards for Auburn. Miles Kelly is boomer bust. That's been proven.
Chad Baker-Mazara, same shit.
Chad Baker-Mazara is just I don't understand, because that dude could be good. But he is just such a head case, and it's just so in the moment, up and down. But bro, Chaney Johnson is the truth. Chaney Johnson is really damn good.
Yeah,
I really like what I've seen from Chaney Johnson in these two games. I think Denver Jens is a fine secondary scorer, almost kind of like what we talked about with Emmanuel Sharp.
The best defensive player in the country, Tuck. Denver Jones. You know who said that?
Who said that?
His coach. He said he's the best perimeter defender in the country, and I don't know why nobody talks about it. And the reason nobody talks about it is because it's not even close to being true.
Bruce. What? What?
Yeah, I already said that.
All right, man. Like, okay. I like. I think Dylan Cardwell is a winning basketball player. I think he is such a
He's
rock solid
five.
energy glue guy
Totally.
that that's a winning that having that dude on your team is a winning piece to the puzzle.
Chris Moore.
Yep. What do you think happened to these two guys that didn't join the team because they got in a little kerfuffle, a scuffle, a rowdy who?
I don't think anything happens to them.
Do you think they stay on the team?
Yeah.
I mean,
when is Bruce Pearl like actually punished his guys?
if I'm an Auburn fan, I hope that they're not on the team because that just means Bruce Pearl can't have a 10 or 11 man rotation.
Yeah, because Bruce Pearl wants to have a 12-man rotation. Which is one of the reasons that he will never win a national championship is a 12-man rotation will never win.
Here's the thing. If Tahad Pettiford didn't knock down 2 threes really quickly when he subbed in the second half, Auburn loses that game because Bruce Pearl just doesn't stick with the hot hand. Bruce Pearl just keeps the rotations going how he did. And that honestly is kind of why I'm like, are they a national contending team? Can we expect Tahad to be that if Tahad doesn't get the opportunity to be penciled in for 20 to 25 minutes every single game? Like, he played 24 minutes in this game.
Chris Moore played 16. JP Pegues played 14.
Dylan Cardwell played 16 minutes in that game.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Look, my bona fides don't come close to Bruce Pearl's bona fides or his coaching staff's bona fides. But man, to me, you have to play your best players.
It's a bold concept, Tuck. Play your best players.
I
don't know.
I just talked myself.
I'd rather not play his best players.
You know what's wild? I'm the one that brought up Auburn being a national title contending team to you. And me talking about it talked myself out of it.
I love it.
I want to be able to bring myself to like admit or see it. And I think Janai Broome, what we saw from Tahad and getting contributions from Denver, from CBM, from Cardwell, from Chaney Johnson, are components for a Final Four caliber team.
Sure.
It's just the question of does the chef follow the recipe? And I don't know. I don't know. And that's going to be a storyline throughout the season is at what point do we see more JP Pegues playing 14 minutes per game? I don't know. I think we're going to get more 20, 25 minute JP Pegues games than 14 minute per game. Well,
also keep in mind that this is the first time that Bruce Pearl at Auburn has ever beaten a top 10 opponent in the non-conference. That is not something that they do. I think that this game says more about where Houston is than where Auburn is. I really do. I am an Auburn hater. I will always be an Auburn hater. I think Bruce Pearl is a piece of shit. I fucking do not like him. I don't think he's a good person. I hate what he stands for. Genuinely do. So my bias is out there. I also don't like how he coaches basketball, and I don't think that this team will ever win a national championship. I just don't believe in it. I will never believe in it. Even if it does happen, Tuck, I will just believe that didn't happen. Anyway, sorry. I will just always be an Auburn hater. It's just always going to happen. But I also have always been right about Auburn because you know what they don't do? Get out of the first round.
Oh. Yep. Well.
Sorry. Got me riled up, Tuck.
Yeah. Hey, it happens to the best of us. Teams. I guess to close this out, teams that we were wrong on. Were we wrong about Texas A&M?
Potentially. Unfortunately. Buzz.
Wake up, Buzz. Wake up.
Who's another one that we might have been wrong about?
I think I politely had Texas ranked in the top 25 in my preseason, and that's clearly not real. I I'm not ready to say we were wrong on Creighton because there's so many moving pieces to Creighton.
Correct.
I think we were wrong on Duke.
Thinking they weren't going to be good?
Thinking that the point guard play is just the reason why they're not going to be a Final Four team.
I still believe that that's real.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. They have played Maine and Army. Let's have them play a couple of real teams. 3 out of their next 4 games are Kentucky, Arizona, and Kansas. Well,
okay, if they win 2 of those 3, are you ready to say they're real?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I am high on Duke, but I'm also like at the end of the day in the tournament. Here's the big difference between the NBA and college basketball. Is college basketball, it matters your point guard or your lead guard play and your center. Whereas in the NBA, it's all about your wing play. Like a lot of teams don't even have real point guards, and their entire emphasis is on their wings. That is not how you win in college basketball. And the way that Duke is built like an NBA team, not like a college basketball team. And that's where I have concerns. Like, we'll see.
I'm interested to see if Michigan State is for real or not. Yeah. I'm skeptical still.
They
play Tuesday. They play Tuesday against Kansas.
Okay.
So I think if they keep that within 2 possessions, they're real. But
okay. I think that's probably it. Are you out on Arkansas? Or are we just kind of like classic waiting on a Cal team until January?
I was kind of always out on Arkansas. I thought they'd be in the national picture and they'd be a top 25 team-ish. But, like, that front court defensively is just a turnstile. And
yeah, what happened to Jonas Adu? I thought he was supposed to be this amazing defensive player.
He's not even really playing. He's played a combined 16 minutes over 2 games.
What's going on? Yeah, what is that? He was like one of their big hauls out of the transfer portal. People were talking about him like he was a top 10 big in the portal.
Yeah.
Never got that one.
Nope. They like Big Z too much. It's Big Z and Trevon. But yeah, well, I think we're going to leave it there for this first rendition of looking around the college basketball landscape. Thanks for doing this with me, Austin, and I'm excited to see where we are, keeping tabs around the country the rest of the way.
Absolutely, Tucker. Let's watch some college basketball.
Let's watch some hoops. Whoo!